When the going gets tough, sometimes you need a little story about motivation. Like Rocky Balboa defying the odds and becoming an epic boxer man. Or Dewey Finn saying, "No, I will not be arrested for identity theft, and yes, I will make a rock band of 4th graders." Today's motivational story stars a writer named Michael Wemdham, who lacked all qualification and research skills needed to be a games journalist, but wasn't about to let that stop him from writing articles anyways. It's like Uncle Ben said, with great desire to do things you're unqualified for comes horrible results that people on YouTube will make fun of. Today's article was sent to me by a viewer, which, once again, thank you very much for sending me things. I appreciate when you guys do the research for me, because it keeps my brain cells a little bit more in my head for when I record the video. And also, it helps me make content quicker. This article was published on April 14th of this year. Just keep that in mind. It's this years old. And quite honestly, this might be the worst article this channel has ever seen. So pop some popcorn, get yourself a Wendy's biggie bag, and let's go through this nonsense together, shall we? The article starts with I! If you want to create a heated discussion, find a group of I gamers and ask them if consoles are better than PCs. Both I sides will have tons of arguments, but some of them are often proven faulty. The truth is, consoles are more popular than ever, as every generation sells hundreds of millions of units. That's not true. Unless you're saying they sell hundreds of millions of units combined, which is a really weird argument to make when the PC has over 1 billion users. So to argue that consoles are even remotely as popular as PCs is just kind of stupid. Also, we're, 3 sentences in and you already have your first typo. Read this again. The truth is, consoles are more popular than ever as every generation sells hundreds of million units. So, why are they irresistible to many? Here are the top 10 reasons why gaming on consoles is better than on PC. Oh, and check our top 10 reasons why PC is better than consoles list for a complete picture.
No, I don't think I will.
Number 10. Playing on consoles is more comfortable. With a picture of someone drinking coffee with Christmas socks in an article from April. Yes, thanks to the HDMI standard, it's possible to connect your PC to that colossal TV in your living room and play your favorite rally, action, or sports games. The fuck is a rally game? But for a large percentage of users, that's too much of a hassle. It's not only that you need to move your computer, but you also have to think about connecting it to the internet. Because you don't have to connect your console to the internet, you would never have to do that. Maybe you'll even need to buy a wireless card / USB dongle and a better router. So, you can connect your PC to the TV, but you shouldn't because something internet. We're off to an amazing start. Also, playing with the mouse and keyboard from the sofa is practically impossible, so use a controller and the problem is solved. Even if you are controlling PC games using a gamepad, you will still need a mouse and keyboard, preferably wireless, to navigate the operating system. Not necessarily. There are many ways to use a controller as your mouse. Also, Steam Big Picture mode. While we've connected PCs to our living room gaming TV numerous times, it will never be a comfortable solution. Connecting your PC to the TV is really just a preference thing, but it's always worth pointing out that it's not something that can't be done, and it's not something that even really is that hard to do. Like, yeah, I guess you've got a point that having a mouse and keyboard on the couch isn't as comfy, like if you have the mouse and keyboard in your lap, but even then you just lean forward, put them on the coffee table if it's that important to you. Now that I think about it, my wife plays Planet Zoo on the couch with a mouse and keyboard, so it really just depends on preference and comfort. And if it depends on preference and comfort, why is it here? But don't worry, the article gets much worse going forward. Like, number 10 was already a stretch, so you can imagine how far down the rabbit hole we're gonna get as we go forward. Okay, number 9, better couch multiplayer, which is another one that absolutely can be argued. It can be argued that the consoles have simpler or more straightforward couch multiplayer, I guess. It's another thing where it's not like there is no couch multiplayer on the PC, and quite honestly, I would argue that the PC has better couch multiplayer possibilities because of emulators, because of mods, because of more compatible controllers. But let's just see how you defend this. Let's say that you're willing to move your PC to the living room once your friends arrive for the local multiplayer games. While there are plenty of games supporting couch play, sometimes it's exclusive to console versions. The list of multi-platform games supporting split screen only on consoles is pretty long.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Even though things are looking better for PC users in the last couple of years. Yet, due to the technical limitations of platforms such as games for Windows, which is a service that has not existed for quite some time now, or Steam. Consoles remain a better choice for local multiplayer. I love the thing people do where they present an argument and they present their thesis, and the thesis and the argument is a thing that could be argued in their favor. You absolutely could make the argument that if you're someone who likes couch multiplayer and doesn't, and like that's a primary way that you play video games, that you should get a console instead of a PC. You can absolutely make that argument. But instead, you decided to hyperextend that big old brain of yours and say that couch multiplayer for the PC is worse because of Games for Windows, a service that was shut down in 2014, while also bringing up the, quote, technical limitations of Steam, which you just did not elaborate on. You also said that the list of multi-platform games that only have split screen on consoles is long. You say that's a long list of games, and you didn't name a single one of them. If there is such a big, long list, it might have benefited you to, give an example. Like I said before, I actually think the PC is better for couch multiplayer because of all the emulators. I have extensively used my PC as a local multiplayer hub for me and my buddies over the years. We would play Super Smash Bros. Melee. We would play Mario Party. Basically any local multiplayer game from the 6th generation, 5th generation, 7th generation of consoles can be played on PC. Can you say the same for modern consoles? And that's why I would argue that the PC is actually a better local multiplayer machine. The variety is just infinitely better. But anyways, let's just continue here with number 8, larger player pool, and this is where the downward spiral officially begins. Of course, you'll have no trouble finding people to play Overwatch, Dota, LoL, or Fortnite on PC, but what if you dig deeper? Console versions of multi-platform games are usually selling much better, so it's easier to find opponents and teammates. If you like Electronic Arts' FIFA series, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, or even more obscure titles, did you just imply Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter were obscure? You will have a much better multiplayer experience on consoles. The wait time is much shorter, so you'll spend more time playing. While FIFA, to my understanding, is crossplay, Street Fighter V is crossplay, and while Mortal Kombat 11's crossplay actually excluded the PC for some reason, that's almost certainly not going to be a thing in the future. Like, Mortal Kombat 12 is almost certainly going to have full crossplay, but that is, that's besides the point. You say that the consoles have a larger player pool. That's not actually true, it's just that your players are more condensed to fewer games. I feel like this is something that I bring up every few videos. Did my voice just crack? Did you hear my voice crack? Yikes, I'm going through puberty again. That's a bummer, I'm 26. The consoles have way less users than the PC, like way less. But sometimes it feels like there's more people on the console because there are less games available on the console. And also consoles have a more, I guess, rigorous AAA culture, which means that AAA games are more likely to have more people flocking to them simply because they're the next AAA game. Whereas PC games just have more games to choose from, have a much wider variety of genres. So yes, the player base of the PC is less condensed to the same handful of titles. Aside from the fact that many AAA titles have crossplay nowadays between PC and consoles, which means your argument here is completely invalid anyways, you also have to consider the fact that games don't last as long on the consoles as compared to the PC a lot of the time. I'm still playing Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 3 on the PC because the openness of the platform allows the community to keep supporting it all these years later. Team Fortress 2 is still one of the top games on Steam. Counter-Strike Go is setting new player count records like a decade after it launched, and there are still thousands of people playing Counter-Strike 1.6. While you are correct that it's easier to find matches in certain console-exclusive AAA games that don't have crossplay, the whole point I'm getting at is that A, that's not actually a positive for the platform, because it's really just an indication of how condensed the communities are and how limited your game options are. But also the bigger point is that the list of AAA multiplayer games coming out that don't have crossplay between PC and console, that's really a pretty small list when you look at it nowadays. The times have changed. So even though games like FIFA or Street Fighter might sell more on console than on PC, if they have crossplay between the console and PC, that really doesn't matter. All right, moving forward. Number 7, console games are better optimized. This will be fun. The uniformity of console hardware means that developers can use every ounce of power available. Yeah, that's one way to say it's not that hard to max them out. Unlike on PC, they don't have to think about optimizing games for tons of different components. The truth is, they don't have to do it anyway. PC games are sacrificing performances for maximum compatibility, as detailed optimization would delay the release. Plus, powerful consoles such as Xbox Series X don't have tons of resource hogs working in the background. Even though they all have an operating system, they are fully optimized for gaming. That's impossible on PC because gaming is only a portion of what a computer does. Of course, there are deviations to the rule. Cyberpunk 2077, anyone? You bring up the uniformity of console hardware as if it's a good thing. Yes, that uniformity does make it easier for developers to know what they're working towards, but this also seems to imply that developing for PC is really, really difficult. Like, you gotta optimize the game for every possible set of hardware, which, if you know anything about PC game development, you know that's not true. That's the whole reason things like DirectX exist. It's so the developers don't have to develop for every possible combination of hardware. But also, you seem to be mistaking optimization for performance. A game may be optimized for the console, but it's still going to run worse because the console's hardware is inherently locked, and when the hardware is locked, there's only so much you can do with it. The PlayStation 4 released in 2013, which means the hardware specs were set in stone before that. So games coming out for the PS4 in the current year are, yeah, optimized for hardware that's over a decade old, but that doesn't mean it's going to run best on that hardware. In fact, it's pretty much going to be the opposite every single time. A game that comes out on the PS4 and the PC, or the Xbox One and the PC in the current year, or really at any point after like 2014, that game is almost always going to run better on the PC, because the PC's hardware is inherently better. So even if it's not as fine-tuned with the optimization, even if the experience isn't as perfectly crafted for the PC as it is for that one set of console hardware, the inherent power of the PC's hardware is going to be able to brute force its way to better performance anyways. Even though a game like Warzone is optimized like pure shit on the PC, or at least Warzone 1. I still haven't played Warzone 2 because I just don't care. But let's just talk about Warzone 1, because I think that's a decent example. Warzone 1 was so shittily optimized on the PC. It ran like complete garbage. And you know what? I was still getting better frames and better performance on Warzone with a GTX 1070 than I would have gotten on the PS4 and Xbox One. And that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You can even look at recent releases like the fucking Last of Us on PC. The Last of Us was completely fucking busted on PC. It's a horribly optimized game. And yet, the PC version of The Last of Us is still capable of far better performance than the PS5 is capable of. Because yes, again, you're right, that when developing for PC, the developers aren't going to be like, yes, this is the exact set of hardware that everyone's going to have and we can really fine-tune the optimization for it. Sure, you can't do that as much on PC, but as I've said many times on this channel, that doesn't really fucking matter when you look at it. Because despite the lack of fine-tuned optimization on the PC, we're still getting better performance, because we're not running on outdated locked hardware. And that is ultimately far more important. But also I want to look at this thing that you said, how Xbox Series X doesn't have tons of resource hogs working in the background. This is just the deadest giveaway that you have no idea how PCs work. I'm going to pull up Task Manager right now and tell you how many programs are working and how much usage it's actually taking from my PC. Because you always hear this from people who don't know anything about the PC. They're like, oh, the PC's got so many background processes, and that means it hurts the game performance, while consoles, it only does games, so that means it runs games better. I mean, first of all, everything I just explained, no, it doesn't run games better. But let's just take a look at my Task Manager right now. I have 4 apps open, those being Discord, Steam, Task Manager, of course, and NZXT Cam, which I use for monitoring my temperatures and fans and stuff. So with those 4 apps and my 73 background processes, I am using a whopping 2% of my CPU. No, 1%. It just went down to 1%. So with 4 apps open and 72 background processes, 1% of my CPU, 19% of my memory. That's it. Which means I have 99% of my CPU and 81% of my memory ready to go when I boot a game. For that is more than enough for the game to run with no problems at all. See, console fanboys seem to have this misunderstanding that just because there are background processes or just because there are a bunch of things running in the background of a PC, that inherently hurts the game's performance. But if you just open your task manager, click that more details button in the bottom left corner, you will immediately see how wrong this is. Because all of those background processes, all of those background programs, all those things that you think are hurting the game's performance, they take such minuscule amounts of effort for your PC to run. I also hate this thing that console fanboys do where they're like, background processes on a PC hurt the game's performance, but not background processes on the console. The console has background performances as well. That's just a byproduct of having an operating system. It's going to be doing more than one thing at once. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Let's just move along. Number 6. Good lord, I've been recording for like a half an hour and we're only at number 6. Fuck. Number 6. Games won't work on every PC. Games won't work on every console either. I really don't want to hear this one, but we're gonna read it anyways. When you play games on PC, there's always a chance that something will go wrong. Maybe the game doesn't support your operating system, or the newest version of GPU drivers are making a mess. So just revert to the old drivers. Also, I can't even think of the last time something like that happened. In the worst case scenario, you might have a unique problem that can't easily be solved. Yes, just in case my arguments are wrong, don't worry. There might be an argument I'm not listing that still makes me correct. Ah, yes, you're so good at this. Maybe your RAM is faulty, or your controller is not compatible with the game even though it should be. Two things that, again, I don't remember the last time that's ever happened. One time, we couldn't start the game at all until we figured out that it doesn't work if two controllers are connected to our PC. Okay, what game was that? When did that happen? What were the specs of the computer you were using? Console fanboys, apply any kind of problem solving to problems, challenge, impossible, 100% fail. Some developers obviously still think that PC gamers don't have multiple gamepads. While even PS5 has some issues, they can't compare to all the bad things happening to PC gamers. You have a bad habit in this article of saying a thing happened and then just not elaborating. You know, first it was, oh, there's a long list of PC games that don't have split screen, and then you didn't give any examples. And now you're like, oh, one time I couldn't even start a PC game because there were two controllers plugged in. That's a really specific problem. I wonder what game caused that. You're not gonna tell me. But also, the game doesn't work if you have two controllers connected. So unplug one of them. This thing that console peasants do is so annoying, where they present a minor problem that is solved with minor problem solving, and they act like it's the complete downfall of the platform. The PC is not a restricted, limited-ass piece of hardware, which, yeah, means sometimes you'll find little quirks like this. And they're usually solved within 5 seconds of looking at the problem, because it's really not that complicated. But again, console fanboys use any amount of problem-solving challenge. 100% fail, impossible, exclamation point, YouTube thumbnail with the guy pointing. And then you close this section by saying, oh, the PS5 has issues, but it can't compare to all the bad things happening to PC gamers. You listed four things? 4 or 5 things? You said a game might not support your operating system, ? Or the newest version of GPU drivers are making a mess. Okay, don't use them. And then you gave an anecdote about a problem you were having with a game that you refused to name and also had an easy solution, apparently. Like, what was the point of all this? Moving on. Number 5, consoles have longer lifespan. Good lord. Good lord. Good lord. In theory, the PC is timeless. Okay, so your argument is wrong. Some members of our Top 10 Fun team have never sold it but upgraded it for decades to always stay relevant. But what if you decide to buy a reasonably powerful PC the same day when the next generation of consoles? After a couple of years or so, you'll need to upgrade to play new games at higher graphics settings. However, the same console hardware stays relevant for at least 5 to 6 years or even a decade, like the Xbox 360 or PS3. It's highly doubtful that your 2013 PC could run 2020 PS4 games such as The Last of Us Part 2 or the Ghost of Tsushima. Yet the PS3 can't run them either, so what's the point? Even if you've spent thousands of dollars building a new PC in 2013, you would still need to upgrade it multiple times by now. It's even worse with laptop PCs or Steam Deck, as you can't upgrade them significantly. Okay, you can't upgrade the console at all, first of all. The console has locked hardware, so in the event of the console having underpowered hardware with shitty game performance, which is every console, there's nothing you can do about it. This is such a false equivalency. You're like, oh, the console stays relevant for 10 years. First of all, there's no other option for 10 years. So is that staying relevant or is that you being stuck? Also, you said laptop PCs or Steam Deck, you can't upgrade them significantly. All right, you can't upgrade your Switch. Switch sucks because you can't upgrade it. Sorry, I don't make the rules. This fucking kid makes the rules. You make the argument here that a multi-$1,000 PC from 2013 wouldn't be able to run 2020 games well. First of all, I kind of just don't believe that. But second of all, this is an incredibly vague statement that you're using as a hard argument, and I kind of hate it. You don't mention any specs, you don't mention any kind of actual, benchmark for that PC, and yet you still make the hard argument that 2020 PS4 games run better than that PC, which is just a really obnoxious way to go about this argument. But also, I want to point out that the two games that you brought up here, Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, both of those games, by 2020 PC standards, ran like fucking garbage. They couldn't get above 30 frames per second, they were riddled with motion blur and other visual techniques used to hide dodgy textures, and you couldn't adjust any of those settings or boost the performance without buying a different machine. You are arguing that a multi-$1,000 PC from 2013 cannot match the performance of 2020 PS4 games. But those 2020 PS4 games, by 2020 PC standards, and even 2013 PC standards, were below par. This is such a bad argument. I'm having trouble responding to it because of how vague it is. But when you really get to the meat and potatoes of what you're saying here, it doesn't even make sense. So let's just move on. Let's just move on and hope it gets better. Spoiler alert, it will not. Number 4, gaming on consoles is much cheaper. Holy fucking hell, no it's not. To build a PC with roughly the same power as a new generation of consoles, you would need to pay at least 2 or 3 times more. That was always the case, and even though consoles like PS5 are now basically a customized PC, things haven't changed a bit. This happens because console makers aren't trying to make money on hardware. Maybe you'll be shocked to know that Microsoft and Sony lose tens of millions of dollars as they sell consoles underpriced. Nintendo is the only manufacturer that profits this way, but only slightly. So why are they doing this? Because they want to establish the user base as quickly as possible. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony receive at least 40% revenue on any games sold for their systems, and still AAA costs the same as on PC. Of course, you'll need the right TV for your console, but they are very affordable right now. You do not need to pay 2 to 3 times the price of a console to get console performance on the PC. While it's true that consoles are sold at a loss, and if you break down the hardware itself, it's true that you're getting a deal. You need to look at it deeper than that. But I would say to get a console equivalent PC, you're probably paying 1.5 times the console if you're going strictly for matching the console. You're not trying to beat it, you're just trying to match it. Because again, you can buy parts used, you can put this together yourself, but I still recommend you do that over buying a console. Because on the PC, you don't pay to play your games online, games are significantly cheaper, sales are much more frequent on the PC, prices just go down faster and more significantly on the PC, and perhaps the best part of the PC is that if you want to upgrade your hardware, you can spend $100, $200 or however much money you want to swap out one piece of that PC to get a big performance upgrade and then sell the piece that you were using before to make that money back and offset the costs, which is a much better solution than waiting for the console manufacturer to make an upgraded console, which you then have to pay full price for a second time. Now, the reason why buying a PC is usually 2 to 3 times as expensive as you say here is because you are paying for significantly better performance and significantly better hardware. A solid modern PC is going to be probably, at least $700 to $800. Again, if you buy parts yourself and put it together yourself. Prices fluctuate. There's a million moving factors. It's hard. It's kind of hard to estimate the cost of a modern PC right now because there's just so many moving parts. But generally speaking, a new gaming PC is going to be a lot more expensive than a console, but you are also getting noticeably better performance across the board, and you are getting all of the benefits that I listed earlier that make the PC much cheaper of a hobby in the long run than a console would be. And on top of all of that, there's a whole bunch of benefits to the PC that I didn't even mention. Things like emulation, things like far better backwards compatibility and just the gigantic game library, things like controller support, things like peripheral support, things like all the PC exclusives. Buying a PC is going to cost you more money than buying a console, but that doesn't mean that PC gaming is more expensive. In the long run, PC gaming is actually significantly cheaper. But if you're looking at this from a console fanboy perspective, which you are in this article, you're going to stop thinking at step one. And if you stop thinking at step one, you're just like, ooh, PC more expensive than console, therefore console is cheaper. No, it's actually not. Moving on, number 3. We're almost done. Only 3 more. 3, no setup necessary. This is a bad thing. This is a bad thing. You have the latest and greatest PC hardware. Lucky you, as you can crank up the settings knowing that the gameplay will be smooth. However, for at least 99% of PC gamers, that isn't the case. Fucking news to me. That's why it may take hours to find the best balance between performance and graphics quality. Some people enjoy this tweaking more than gaming, but again, they are only a vocal minority. Recently, consoles offer graphics customization in some games, but it's all about choosing between a higher resolution or 60 to 120 FPS performance. On PC, some of the options are hard to understand, even for experienced gamers. I love when console fanboys take a lack of options, a lack of settings, a lack of gameplay possibility, and try to twist that into a positive thing. First of all, doing your graphics settings takes a few seconds. You take a few seconds to adjust settings, apply, see if you like it. Okay, cool. Or maybe you're getting lower frames than you would want. Let me adjust a couple of these little settings that I don't really care all that much about. And a lot of the times it's game by game. You know, personally, if I'm playing a single player game, I don't mind going down to 60 FPS if it means I can max out the settings. But if I'm playing a multiplayer game, I usually want to shoot for at least 100. So I'll turn down the graphic settings because I don't really care about graphic settings in multiplayer games anyways. Compare that to the console, where sometimes the game gives you like 2 or 3 options with like no mixing and matching in those options. How is this possibly a positive thing? And the best part too is that if you don't want to deal with graphic settings on PC, if you don't want to deal with all the little bits and pieces of the stuff that you can play with, just don't. Use the presets. That's what they're there for. But it's also kind of insulting that you don't think console gamers are capable of understanding what the difference between low, medium, high, and ultra are. Because that's really what you're saying here. You're saying gamers take hours to play with these things. Oh, it's too complicated for us to understand. Dude, it's English. Okay, number 2, you can't sell your PC games. In the digital world, you can't sell your console games either. I'm going to skip over this one because it's fucking stupid. But before I skip over it and go to number 1, I am going to say a couple things. How's the digital marketplace on console going? You know, how are the key sites doing for console? How are the in-game marketplaces for stuff like skins? How are those doing on console? It's true that PC gaming doesn't really have a physical scene anymore for games, for physical copies, and obviously you can't sell digital PC games, at least not yet. But this is an issue with digital games, not with the PC. The PC is a much more digital-focused platform, so of course you can't sell the games as easily as you can on console. But the console is becoming also much more digitally focused. And if we're comparing the digital focus of the console to the PC has an infinite advantage because we have way more digital game sites to buy from, and we have way more games that actually let you sell in-game items for actual money, which the console still hasn't really caught up with for some reason. So I'm skipping this whole section and going to number 1, which is console exclusive games, because of course it is. There's no doubt that there are many PC games that will never be released on consoles. Okay, so this entire section is unnecessary. The trouble is, there are no AAA games among them. Really? Star Citizen? World of Warcraft? League of Legends? Dota? Counter-Strike? You don't think those are AAA games? Really? Or AA games. Almost every PC exclusive title and the biggest indie games receive a port on consoles. Developers and publishers are highly motivated to get their games to hundreds of millions of console players. Again, with the hundreds of millions of console players, like, that's just not the way things are. There's still less than 100 million PS5s and Xbox Series consoles sold total. Like, those platforms put together still haven't cracked 100 million. While some console exclusive games eventually come to PC, you may have to wait for years. However, many of them will still skip Windows, especially PlayStation exclusives. That's a little awkward. Don't wait for the PC editions of Gran Turismo, Ghost of Tsushima, Ratchet & Clank. etc. As our top 10 list implies, consoles are here to stay, and even if you are a passionate PC gamer, you might consider buying them at least for exclusives and the comfort of play. We genuinely believe that to call yourself a complete gamer, you have to embrace both platforms and enjoy diversity. So not only did you just make a big stupid point about console exclusive games, which I kind of glossed over that because I felt like it was self-evidently dumb, but most PC gamers don't care about console exclusive games because yeah, most of the time they'll come here eventually, where they'll be cheaper and run better, and we just have way more games to play in the meantime. It kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the AAA hype culture of PC versus console. There's just way more games over here, so we just don't care that much about AAA releases. And when you don't care as much about AAA releases, not being able to play the latest console exclusive, it doesn't really bother you. Like, yeah, I'll try it when it comes to PC, if it comes to PC, but in the meantime, I have a million other games to play, so I don't really care. Especially when so many of these console-exclusive games just are so samey and derivative of one another. But the way this article closes kind of bothers me. To call yourself a complete gamer, you have to embrace both platforms. Why? Genuinely, why? The platform I play on is infinitely less corporate, is more open, is more developer-friendly, is more consumer-friendly, and is doing way more to push the industry forward than the console market has in decades. Why should I embrace the consoles? I consider myself a very avid gamer. I'm a very passionate gamer. I love this hobby. I love gaming. And because I love gaming, I don't want to embrace the consoles. Because the consoles, as time goes on, are just becoming more and more anti-gamer. Why would I embrace that? And why are you so eager for me to do so? After you just spent a long-ass article explaining why the PC is worse than the console in a lot of ways that weren't accurate at all, you now say I have to embrace both platforms in order to call myself a gamer? Who the fuck are you? Like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I don't have your permission to be a gamer? Question mark? I don't know how long this video is. I've been recording for 55 minutes. I don't know how long the video is going to be by the time it gets edited down. I have a feeling it's going to be long, so thank you for sticking around if you stuck around this long, because it was probably difficult. This article blows. This article blows big chunky butt cheek butt ass. I'm gonna go drink coffee and edit this. Toodles.